right, folks, welcome to Nino's Corner. I got a very special podcast for you today. I'm going to be bringing on Lyman, who ran for governor in 2024 against Spencer Cox in Utah. Now, there's a lot of stuff going on the internet. The internet's caught fire with Candace Owens, basically not accusing, but saying there's suspicious activity around Lyman, Lyman's nephew or his cousin's son. Actually, we're going to clear all that up right now. Lyman's going to join me to set the record straight. It's very important that you understand what's going on here, because right now there's the whole Charlie Kirk assassination thing is going wild all over the internet. There's tons, unlimited amounts of conspiracy theories flying all over the place. I'm in the camp that we don't know what's going on, right? We all know there's more to the story. Tyler Robinson could not have acted alone. There's too many discrepancies, anomalies, improbable, mathematically improbable coincidences. It just doesn't make sense. There's a lot of things that happen there that we know there's bigger elements involved. But Candace Owens is let's say suspicious. She's saying there's some suspicious people close to Lyman, specifically Lyman's nephew, which he says, no, wait up, that's not my nephew. He's saying it's not his nephew. That were involved or complicit in suspicious activity related to the assassination of Charlie Kirk. So I'm going to let Phil come on right now. Phil, welcome to the show, and unpack all of this stuff for my audience, and let him throw his own punches here, so to speak. We pull no punches on Ninoscorner.tv. Phil, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate you coming on.
Hey, it's so good to be with you, Nino. Thank you.
So I reached out to you a few weeks back. I don't know if it was before Charlie Kirk's assassination or after. Probably before. And I wanted to. Yeah, it was before.
I think so.
I wanted to talk to you about everything that happened with your election in 2024. And I wanted to, talk about all the fraud and the deception and the discrepancies that happened with that election. And I just wanted to dive into it. And we kept putting off the podcast. And then today I'm watching Candace Owens on some of her clips. And I'm thinking to myself, Lyman, wait a minute. I've been talking to that guy. I reached out to you and I said, what is going on here? Can you tell me what the story is that's going on here? You said, absolutely. I go, look, let's do a show. Let's do it live. And let's bring you on to set the record straight. And you agreed. And I appreciate you coming on. So thank you for that.
Yeah, no, thank you. It's crazy what's going on. I mean, we're kind of like, people are tearing each other apart. People that should be allies are going after each other. Everybody's got their own theories, and it turns into, if you see it differently, then somehow you're in a different camp. So it's been really, really weird. And I was there, so it changes my role in all of this stuff, having been there. And so then people are like, well, what did you see? And that doesn't match with what this person saw, things like that.
Almost like the wrong place at the wrong time.
Almost, yeah.
So, I saw a video where let's go back to that day, that terrible day. Let's talk about it. You were there, I guess, to support Charlie Kirk, correct?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I, after running in 2024, my whole campaign team has stayed really active. And so one of my people said, hey, you really should come up. We have a huge rapport with the college kids, the college Republicans and the Turning Point USA. And I've been to a number of Charlie Kirk's things where I would consider him a friend, as far as you can get on the kind of the political side of things. And so I was anxious to go up, and I went back and talked to him when he drove up. And so, yeah, it was a good time to go up, connect with Charlie Kirk, connect with all those college kids. And I've told people, when Charlie Kirk shows up, he brings the party with him, and it's music and hats, and, it's just banging and kids are screaming, and it's a fun scene. All those
I've always said Charlie Kirk is like he was changing the hearts and minds of the youth, preaching about the nuclear family. He was preaching about Christianity, the Constitution, everything that makes somebody, American, family values, all of that. And he was changing the hearts and minds of the youth. And to me, that's the biggest threat of all right there. So I can see why nefarious people would want to take him out to regain that kind of control. But there's so many people that could have skin in the game in this, and there's so many people that could be suspicious, that could be involved in this. And now, guess what, Phil? The finger's kind of been pointed at you with Candace. So let's unpack this. You were there, and I don't know if Alex has this video, but there was a video of you walking through, it looked like to me, a building, or you were coming out of a building, and you were approaching two Gothic dressed girls in black that kind of cursed you out, correct? Can you take us again through that, what happened there? You heard the shot go off behind you?
Yeah, so I was up on the upper level, the far east end. Charlie's down at the bottom in the far west end. And I was looking for some people that I was trying to meet up with so we could go back down and I could introduce them to Charlie Kirk. So they said, oh, well, we're on the kind of on the middle level. I said, okay, I'll come down, which is you have to go inside the building, go down the stairs. So I went inside the building, opened the first door, opened the second door. It's got kind of a breezeway. And as soon as I opened the second door and took a step in, I heard this giant boom behind me. And I mean, I know what a gun sounds like, but I was not expecting to hear a gun. And I turned around and I looked at the person behind me and I looked and I continued to kind of walk. So I took 4 or 5 steps and it just hit me. It's like, that's a gun. And nobody, because you didn't see any commotion, like, oh, somebody dropped a giant plate glass or something. And so I turned and I ran back out. And then when I got outside, some people were oblivious. Most people were hiding and, behind the concrete barriers and things. And then I just kind of stepped over. I was trying to find out, does somebody know what's going on? Because everybody's screaming. And clearly, I looked down, first of all, to see, was this Charlie Kirk? And by about the time 5 or 6 seconds goes by, you kind of resolve this is probably not a mass shooting. But that's what that was my first fear, is like, this is going to be a mass shooting.
So when you went out there, did it register to you? Oh man, Charlie Kirk got shot, or you really you were kind of disoriented. You didn't really know what was going on. You just saw people scattering. You were just kind of like, wait, what's going on here? Yeah.
So I was about 100 yards probably away from where Charlie was at. So I could see all the commotion down there, and they clearly, they were behind the table. So I couldn't see anything that was behind the table. And then they looked like they were moving in a group, so I figured they were carrying him off. Yeah, and so once you decide it's not a mass shooting, then you're hoping, maybe it was just a scare, maybe they missed. It's really hard for your brain to really comprehend that, that they killed him, and but that's pretty soon, after things started kind of dying down, then I started moving back down towards the front. And the college kids who I'd been talking to earlier, who had stayed down there, they were saying, yeah, they thought he was dead. So
that's important, though. You were 100 yards away from Charlie, going through the building, and you heard a shot behind you.
Yeah.
So we know the shot. So that tells me the shot came from at least 150, 170 yards away, right? 200 yards away, maybe max.
So, and I didn't see the map of where the shooter was till I think, like the following night or something. And when I saw it, he's looking right down across right where I was standing before I walked into those doors. So I thought, well, that kind of makes sense if he was back there. And I quickly put it on Google Earth. It's 145 yards or something.
So the guy would have been 45 yards behind you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So are you buying the narrative? Are you the narrative that they're putting out there that Tyler Robinson was the lone shooter? He did it. Are you buying into that? Or are you questioning it?
I've never believed that it was Tyler Robinson.
Okay.
It could have been him on the roof. And so I looked at the guy coming down the street and looking at, the pictures that they had of Tyler Robinson. Once you got a good look, it's like, that's not the same guy that's walking down the street. And then they have the guy in the stairwell. And that's not Tyler Robinson. His earlobes don't attach the same way, and it's a fuzzy picture, so it's always like, well, maybe, but it didn't look the same to me. But then the guy running, across the roof and jumping off, you're saying, well, that looks like it could be, more the build of Tyler Robinson. But then the first question you have is, well, if they have him running across the roof, why don't they have him, taking the shot? Why don't we see that? Because the it's clearly in the picture. So then just every answer that they come up with creates 7 more unanswered questions. And then when they showed the gun, I just thought that's not I don't think that's the gun that shot Charlie Kirk, for a number of reasons. Number one, they were saying that, that he'd taken it apart, put it back together. It's like, no, not that gun. You don't take, if you took that gun apart and put it back together, whatever you're aiming at is the thing you would for sure not hit,
Right.
But you can always get lucky. So it's like, there's always like that little sliver of chance, but right off the bat,
there's so many things that replay my mind. One being the question that was asked to Charlie right before he got shot was about mass shootings, and I think it was trans mass shootings. The question, I don't know what exactly it was, but it was about mass shootings, and then right then and there, it was like a cue, bam, he pulls the trigger, Charlie gets shot right then and there. The fact that you heard the shot behind you tells me a lot, because a lot of people say, well, it happened from his right. It happened it happened at about 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, maybe behind him. There's so many conspiracies out there. But the fact that when you were walking in that building, you say yourself that you heard the shot go off behind you, correct?
Yeah.
So that tells me that the shooter had to be at least 150, 175 yards away, right? Am I estimating that right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think, again, if you put it on Google Maps, it's like 145 yards. And
okay, and then we had the guy Zinn in there, the guy that was at 9/11. He was like a crisis actor. I mean, so many discrepancies and anomalies that don't make sense.
Yeah, George Zinn to me is kind of like he's like the fly in the ointment. It's like, how do you explain this? Even if he's a nut, which he is, that's a really strange initial response. Stand up and I hadn't seen the video where he stands up and kind of points like he's got a gun at Charlie Kirk, and you see that, it's like, okay, that's bizarre. And then he's waving his hat, I did it, I shot him. And they arrest him, within like 90 seconds. And
so
it's like, yeah.
So Candace, she's not really accusing you of anything, but she's just saying there's some suspicious people around you, right? That's what I'm getting from this. And one of them being your nephew, but you're saying, wait a minute, it's not my nephew.
Well, she went off on my nephew today.
Your nephew.
Yeah, kind of today she was going off on my nephew's thing, which it's like she wants to know who his friends are, and
But is he your nephew?
He's the son of my first cousin, so I guess he'd be my first cousin once removed, so further than a nephew. And Candace is all upset at me
because like a second or third cousin or something. What is that? I don't even know.
I mean, the term would be first cousin once removed.
Okay,
it's like a generation off from my first cousin.
Okay, so he's not your nephew.
No, it's not my nephew,
but he calls you uncle.
I think you put down, this is my uncle Phil, which I'm honored that he calls me his uncle, and I would certainly call him my nephew if he wanted me to call him my nephew. It's like, and that's what bugged me today is Candace is saying, well, now Lyman is really trying to distance himself from Shayna. It's like, I'm not trying to distance myself when I say he's not my nephew. He's the son of my first cousin. And this is with everything with Candace, these last few episodes. There's like, it's like anything I say is a lie. Anything I do, there's just pure contempt, which then leads me to think that she's doing something kind of more for the Cox camp, or, for the, gearing up for 2028, because there's a few other people that are going to be in. And so much of the political games, I'm a little bit oblivious to, mainly because I just don't play them. So I can't tell, because it doesn't feel like there's no reason why Candace Owens would be, personally suspect of me. There's nothing I've done that's questionable.
So let's talk about your quote unquote nephew that she's calling your nephew. He's not your nephew, but okay, Shayner. So he apparently, she says that he just swiped his LinkedIn account and his Facebook. I don't know what other platforms. Maybe she put in his Instagram on. He put his Instagram on private. Maybe he's freaking out. He's a little spooked about everything. I don't know. But now what she's pointing the finger at him and his relationship with his friends. Can you explain that? Can you tell me what that is she's talking about?
I mean, the only thing I know about that whole thing is what I've seen on Candace's show. So today I saw, he's walking back through behind the neighborhood, which, again, that I spent a lot of time there as a child growing up because those are my relatives. Ironically, my grandpa, my great grandpa had all of that property where UVU is. It was their farmland. And so now they've got, still a lot of the people that live there. So they're walking back behind the houses there and kind of like trying to trace, this is where they think that whoever the shooter fled. And that's, I'm honestly, that's about it. They're kind of like trying to retrace,
so Shaner was out there just retracing the steps, saying this is what we think he did, what we think happened.
Right.
And then he was putting that on social media.
Right.
Then the minute Candace Owens starts following him on social media, he swipes his accounts.
I think she reached out to him and DM'd him on Instagram and asked him who the two people were. I don't think that he cleared his accounts. I don't think that he's like purged those things. And I'm not big on social media. Or maybe I would go and check it, but I don't have a lot of communication with Shane. Or we talk, once or twice a year because he was Mike Lee's intern. He likes politics. So he loves, when I come around, he wants to say, hey, that's my, that's Phil. It's Phil Lyman. I want to introduce my friends, which I like. He's kind of in that college scene.
Uncle.
Yeah. I don't know if he's ever called me uncle to my face, but I saw his post where he said, this is my Uncle Phil. And I thought, yeah, I like that. I like that, Shaner. I'll take it. Kind of like, a lot of relationships, you'd say it's almost like Godfather or something. It's like, okay, well, I'll be Uncle Phil and I'll call you.
It's like a lovable term. I used to.
It is, right?
Coach, my boxing coach, I used to call him Uncle 𝗀𝗨𝗏, and everyone thought he was my uncle. He was not my uncle. He's not even related to me.
It's funny because
we called him Uncle 𝗀𝗨𝗏. Yeah.
I've got a nephew who a lot of the legislators know him, and he always calls me Uncle Phil, even though he's like 50 years old and I'm 60 or whatever. He's coming up on 50. Still calls me Uncle Phil everywhere. So a bunch of the legislators, when they see me, it's like, oh, hey, Uncle Phil. And anyway, that's neither here nor there. But yeah, Shaner's a good kid, and he had these two friends, and I think.
But is she saying one of them looks like the kid that was on the stairwell? Is what she's saying, and I don't know if we have but we have some clips to play of Candace. What clip do you want Alex to play first?
Let's just do that number one.
So let's do that number one, Alex. Go ahead.
Let's see what we.
There is a politician's name that keeps coming up. And now he's apparently mad that we keep asking questions. I'm beginning to think that he might know something that he hasn't yet shared. So I wanted to kind of loop you guys into this and see what you think. Welcome back to Candace. I do also want to say before we get into reading and telling you something even crazier that happened. I'm talking crazy. Okay, so something very strange happened this weekend. And I need to tell you guys about it. I need to offload this and get your opinion. Now, first and foremost, I have to tell you about this student who I'm going to refer to as Nick. Nick is not his real name.
And Nick is Shaner?
No, Nick is just a student that his name's 𝗬𝗓𝗏 or 𝗬𝗓𝗏𝗏, and that's his post. He ran for city council, but she's like, he's 20 years old and he's a child, and so I'm not going to use his real name. It's like, he's running for city council. He's run campaigns before, and he's kind of Candace's go-to to get all of this information. And somehow the two of them, at least from Candace's standpoint, the two of them have decided that I'm withholding information. So I think what I take, and that was kind of her introduction yesterday, is just this, Lyman is suspect. His name keeps coming up, and something's going on with Lyman, and we're going to get to the bottom of this one way or the other. And he's not telling me the truth, and he's not giving me information. So that's kind of
what is it about the car that was parked a certain way, or your car was parked in the parking lot next to? What is going on with that?
Yeah,
explain that to my audience, because I heard briefly she was speaking on that. Can you clarify, unpack that for my audience? With my family kind of being close to UVU, and really they're almost like on campus. The campus kind of wraps around the neighborhood there. And so the morning of the Charlie Kirk event, I got a call from one of the people that I was meeting and said, hey, these parking lots are packed. And so I thought, well, I'm not even going to try. I'm just going to go around and park in
actually right on my own mother's lot. She doesn't live up there, but she's got a couple of lots. I thought I'm just going to go park there. So I did. And
so you parked on your mother's lot.
Yeah, she's on one side, my aunt's on the other, so it's all just kind of right there. So I just pulled in, kind of on the family property, and then just walked really a short distance over to the school. But then when the videos came out of Tyler, we'll say Tyler Robinson or whoever it was that's walking down the street, I hadn't seen those. I was on the interview with Fox News with 𝗂𝘂𝗧𝗂𝗏 𝗧𝗏, and it's like, hey, that's my car. That's right where I'm at. And it's like, and then they said 11:49. It's like, well, I was there at 11:30, and so we're really close. I thought that's interesting. So the same route that I took to walk over to the college was the same route that the shooter took. Well, and again, I don't even know what to call him, whether it's the shooter, what the guy in the black t-shirt, and through the stairwell and a few things like that. So that was a little bit interesting.
A lot of people probably took that route as well, correct? You're not just the only two.
Yeah, I mean, it would probably, the vast majority would have come from the parking lots in other places. So, out of the like 4,000 people or 3,500 people that were there, I would guess maybe 300 or 400 people that maybe went down that spot.
Wow. So let's play the next reel of Candace, and we'll go into this as well.
Me looking into the witness list, and obviously we spoke about this 𝗵𝗐 Peterson-Barker, that very weird clip of her with her nieces at like 4 a.m. in the morning, just speaking on Good Morning America, and her energy was just weird to me. I thought her being there was weird. Obviously, this is my podcast. I can say whatever I want. We reached out to her, and then she gave us a ton of information, but never actually presented to us. She never sent me directly any footage that could verify that she was there when Charlie Kirk got shot, okay? And she was a bit upset that I didn't clarify that. I thought it was weird that she wouldn't just text me the footage because it didn't allow me to confirm that she was where she said she was. That's what metadata is for. Metadata instantly will say, here's where you were, at what time, and this is this person's iPhone. So I wasn't gonna lie to my audience. I just told you guys, hey, you can check her out on her Instagram. Here's her excuse. She says that this is why her nieces said that, and we sort of moved on, right? And then you'll recall we learned from 𝗵𝗐, when I was trying to figure out, how did you get this hit on Good Morning America? Like, did you share something that would have had them reach out? Well, then I told you, she told us, actually, Phil Lyman is the person that put me on Good Morning America. My sister ran with him as lieutenant governor. And I was like, oh, okay. So Phil Lyman got you that position on Good Morning America. You had essentially a connection there that made that happen. Don't know how I missed this. But then I learned that Phil Lyman himself was very involved in all the communications that immediately went out about the shooting, and that his car was in the driveway of the now infamous TMZ footage, which showed the shooter walking twice that day by this house. In fact, Phil Lyman says that he had just pulled into that driveway minutes earlier and had just missed the shooter. He went onto Instagram that night as 𝗵𝗐 was prepping her Good Morning America hit, I suppose.
Okay. All right. So were you in charge of the communications that day?
I was in control of everything there, according to Candace, but and I threw that.
Did you have a connection to put in 𝗵𝗐 Peterson-Barker? You had a connection. You put her on Good Morning America?
So let me put it this way. 𝗵𝗐 and her sister Natalie, who was my lieutenant governor candidate, and Stephanie, the three sisters, Peterson sisters, they were there. Their mother was there, and about 13 kids. The oldest one being 14 or 15 years old, and those kids were right down front. They got there early. They had several of them had sung at Charlie Kirk events in the past. They were hoping, to say hello to him again, and they feel a connection. They were really close, and these are young kids. Old enough to have a cell phone and old enough to be taping Charlie Kirk when he was shot, and their mothers are there. I was there, and it was traumatic for me. I'm trying to process this, but if I'd have had 3 or 4 of my children there, young children, believe me, it would be a lot harder to process. And so that's what we're talking about here with 𝗵𝗐, and so then because right off the bat, I don't know of another politician that was there, if I want to call myself a politician, but I was there, and I was with Charlie, and right off the bat, I started getting calls. And as soon as they said, yeah, I was there, I talked to Charlie just before, then, okay, now that's going out. And Good Morning America.
So you started getting inundated and flooded with calls once people found out you were there.
Flooded with
and
calls,
then,
yeah.
Oh, and then you were kind of like, hey, Tiffany, you want to go on this Good Morning America spot or what?
Yeah, so Good Morning America called. I was actually over at the Petersons' house, who live there in Orem. A lot of times I'll stay there at their parents' house. They've got a nice basement, and I can stay. And I think I stayed there that night. But so either way, I went over to the Petersons' house. The sisters are there, a bunch of the kids are there. I walked in, and some of those little girls said, "I saw this happen," and they were explaining in detail. And I thought, you haven't processed yet what's going on. I haven't processed yet what's going on. And then Good Morning America calls and says, "Hey, would like to do an interview with you. Were you there?" And I said, "Yeah, I was there." And they said, "Were you close to Charlie when he was shot?" And I said, "No, I wasn't." But I said, there were a lot of children there, a lot of kids there. And I said, "Did you have children there?" I said, "No, I didn't." They said, "Do you know somebody that did?" And I just, and it was probably a foolish thing to do, but they were very polite. And Natalie, my lieutenant governor, was sitting, Lieutenant Governor candidate. And I said, "Hey, do you want to talk to Good Morning America?" And she was like, "Oh, I don't know." And then finally she said, "Okay." And then they had a really nice conversation and decided, yeah, let's do this. And Good Morning America was going to come to the house the next morning, film this little segment of talking to the moms and their children. And then kind of at the last minute, they said, "Hey, can you just meet us over at the campus?" So Candace likes to say, "Oh, what mother would take her children back to the scene of the crime with the shooter still at large at 4 a.m. and, just horrible mother." And then it's like, and Phil Lyman is the one that gave her the position and has all these connections. But it's very natural that the people that are there that witness this would be, of interest to news media. Say, well, let's talk to people who are there, which was Tiffany and her girls, and I thought they did a really good job. And they talked about it.
Where were they at during the shooting?
They were probably. One of the girls said we were 15 feet from Charlie.
Are they traumatized?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I've talked to them since, and some of the kids, won't sleep in their own bed. And I think it was therapeutic for them, but I also worried just about their moms. I was really affected. I was affected a lot by Charlie's, death. I was really affected by thinking there's 3,000 kids who've just been traumatized. It's like an act of terror.
Millions of people got traumatized. Think about that. I mean, people saw that live, man.
Yeah.
You know what I don't understand is I've just seen some angles of it, but I don't understand why they took down the cameras immediately. I don't understand. Did the FBI confiscate everyone's phones or something? Because why aren't I seeing more angles of this shot?
Well, so this is the part that and this is what I told Steve Bannon, is like, I don't know who shot Charlie Kirk. I don't know this, but I did see the response, like the immediate response, which was everybody go home, put down your phones, and it was all Spencer Cox. It was all the governor. And he's running these big press conferences when you're thinking, you've got 𝗫𝗄𝗃 standing right there. You've got your sheriff, you've got your law enforcement. And yet they would take 30 seconds and then Governor Cox would get on and talk about, don't hate, and let's all put down our phones. And then we got him. It's done. It's like,
right. It's a wrap.
Yeah. It's a wrap right off the bat. It's like, whoa. This, what about George Zinn? That's what, initially it was like, hey, well, explain George Zinn, because something's still fishy.
So you're assuming, or you think that maybe Candace is involved with Cox in some kind of way?
There's a lot of politics that gets inserted into those people of her stature. So I would think so. Yeah. At this point, I would say, well, there's somebody, and it could be coming through the Senate or the Congress or some PAC or something else that's saying, this is what we want to have happen. And she's got sponsors, and she does all those things. And if your sponsors don't want you saying something, you probably won't say it, because at the end of the day, she's got to pay the bills like the rest of us.
What's your thoughts on the people that are involved in Turning Point USA that aren't saying anything? that are just radio silence. I mean, do you think they're complicit? What do you think is going on with this? Do you think they're compromised? Do you think they're just scared?
You know, one thing that we haven't seen is the Turning Point USA footage from those cameras. And you look where the cameras were. It's like, well, if any camera is going to have high quality footage of what happened, it's going to be those cameras. And the fact that we haven't seen it, it tells me that they probably know more than they're willing to say.
Didn't the federal government, aren't they telling Utah Valley University to stop the investigation? This is what I've heard. I also, is that really happening? That's just, I heard that. I have not validated it. Maybe someone in my audience can validate that. But also I find very suspicious is the fact that they're remodeling the whole area that he was shot at.
Unbelievable. And they started.
I would think the FBI would be down there with like laser pointers and, you know, forensics and doing all kinds of stuff using dummies and trying to figure this out. No, they're remodeling the whole area, which tells me, I don't know, are they covering up a crime scene?
Well, to pave over all of that, and they did it on a Sunday morning, and somebody said, well, it was scheduled. It's like, it wasn't scheduled for a Sunday morning. I guarantee you that. In Utah, your work crews don't go out and do that kind of stuff on a Sunday morning. It was interesting. I was down at a UVU on Saturday, and I ran into Governor Gary Herbert, who's a friend, and you know, politically we're probably, you know, on different ends. But I was talking to him, and he said, yeah, it was such a mess down there. There was so much blood, and I thought, well, it's on grass. You know, you can that blood goes away really quickly with a little bit of water. And he said they wanted to pave it over really quickly so that it wouldn't be a spectacle. And I just thought that doesn't make sense to me. So I think it's really suspicious. And even then, like I say, if you were going to do that, you would say, all right, well, Monday morning when the crews get to work, we'll start on this. But to start it, you know, on a Sunday morning with heavy equipment, backhoe, skid steers in there, ripping up a lot of dirt, you know. That's weird.
You think there could have been multiple shooters?
So if I were to like let my, you know, conspiracy theories go wild, I think I would say that the shot that came from the roof in back of me was not a bullet. It could have been a blank. It could have been something it sounded like a .30-06. Somebody right there said, I think that was a 22. And I said, that's 30-06 or 308. I'm not a gun expert, but I have done enough hunting to know the difference between a small caliber and a large caliber. And honestly, if I were making an alternative right now, it would be the lapel thing that they put on him. That is really suspect.
Oh, the vest that a lot of people are saying that is that what you're saying, that it could have blown up, or what do you think?
Yeah, that little mic that they put on, because he's got his mic. It doesn't make any sense. I've looked in other pictures. They don't put that mic on there. So that was an unusual, I guess it was on this side. So they put that mic on there, and it does look like, to me, like the shirt blows out.
But they did an autopsy, right?
I don't think they did. I mean, that was the big news of a week or so ago, that they had not done an autopsy.
I've heard they did. I heard they didn't. Let my audience, what did they do an autopsy? Man, there's just so many moving parts to this. There's so much minutia behind. I don't know what to believe, man. And
well, and that's what when 𝗏𝗏𝗄𝗏, when he came and said, we did some AI enhancements to this picture of the guy in the stairwell, and it's like, okay, well, it was a grainy picture before that didn't look like Tyler Robinson. And after the AI enhancements, it looked a lot like Tyler Robinson. And I said, it's hard to unscramble an egg. And I think they come in and they scramble things up, and it's like.
But isn't Candace alluding to that the guy in the stairwell looks like one of your quote unquote nephew's friends?
Yeah.
Isn't she saying that? She's saying that it looks just like one of your nephew's friends. Is she reaching too far here, or what's going on?
100%. I mean, and this is the thing, she calls out Tiffany, being a horrible mother, and what kind of mother does this? And so Tiffany's getting all this hate. Then she calls out my family, the Still family. Jeez. They've got 12 homes there. It's like, well, after 5 generations, you have some houses that you live in. Then she calls out one of the companies that one of the cousins works for, this engineering company. Now it's a valve company. And all of those things have consequences. They get cyber attacks at their company now. Tiffany gets a lot of hate mail. She can handle it. She's well equipped to handle that kind of stuff. The people on the street, are getting kind of harassed, and it's like, Candace, you can't think that your words don't have consequences, And then when she goes after me, and again, in politics, if people are talking about you, that's usually a good thing, but I'm not really in politics. And I don't know why she thinks that she needs to like come out and disparage me, but it does have an effect.
Sylvester Stallone, so what did he say? He said, you know why alligators have been around for millions of years? They have thick skin. We all got to have thick skin. I have thick skin from boxing, and I'll tell you what, that was a tough racket. Phil, I appreciate you coming on, man. I'm glad you were able to clear the air here. Do you have any message? I know you've been saying that you've been keeping in contact with Candace. I guess she's been reaching out to you still, right? And you've been responding to her, or
well,
dialogue stopped? It's
pretty strained. And here's the thing that really bugs me about Candace is she'll say things like, so I sent him these texts and they went unread. It's like, that's not true, Candace. You send me a text, I respond, and then it goes 4 days before you answer back on that. And then she'll say, and that I'm not reading her texts, things like that are just blatant lies, just total like fabrications. This 𝗬𝗂𝗃𝗁, I don't know if you follow Ian, but he's a great guy, and he DM'd me and said, I'm coming out to Utah, kind of like keep it on the down low. So I reached out to this Truman guy and said, hey, I'm not going to be here this weekend, and Ian's coming. Would you? And I went over to his house, said, hey, called him and said, hey, I'm right by your house. Do you want to go grab some lunch? And he said, oh, I'm just coming back for breakfast. And I said, well, so I went in. I said, well, this is what I wanted to talk to you about. 𝗬𝗂𝗃𝗁's going to be in town. I'm not going to be here. Would you be able to go and hang out with him, show him a tour of the campus? But she's turned that to, a gubernatorial candidate shows up unannounced at a 20-year-old's house. It's like, well, he lives with his grandparents. I know the name. It's like, it's so spun out of control. And that's what she's trying to go to today. I think maybe I've squashed that, but she was really trying to imply that I am like somehow a predator of a 20-year-old child. And that kind of stuff really spins. Anyway, that doesn't answer your question.
Connection? I guess I missed that. What's the Truman connection here?
So Truman came out and she was saying that Truman works for me, that he's on my campaign. That's not true. I don't know if he misrepresented that or if she misunderstood that. He was really interested in helping Candace. I think he loves attention, loves, to just connect with people. So he wanted to like solve some of these things. He had this, a car that he was trying to get the license plate of, and he had reached out to me, and I said, let me see if I can find somebody that will run the license plate on that, a few things like that. But yeah, so Truman he was just kind of like inserting himself into my campaign and my election or, team. And Candace.
But you vet these people before they come into your campaign, right? I mean, what do you mean he was inserting himself? He was just
saying, hey, I want to come. And so we don't have an official campaign going, so there's no vetting process. He's just basically saying, hey, I really, really like what you're doing. I really want to be part of this. And so we'd gone to, he came to a speech that I was given on the 17th, and we went and got pizza and things like that. So it's just relationships, you start kind of hanging out, getting to know each other. But Candace wants to spin this into like out of the blue, this, old gray-haired gubernatorial candidate shows up at this young, vulnerable. It's like, come on, Candace.
To catch a predator.
Look, that's almost what it feels like. It's like, do not go there, Candace.
There's so many twists and turns in this, man. Right. It's just, it's unbelievable. I mean, we all know there's way more to this story. We know there's way more people involved. I think it was a very high professional hit from very high up. Where it goes, I don't know. But Phil, I appreciate you coming on. Phil, I hope you get to go back on Candace's show and clear the air with her.
I do.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
But I said, hey man, you could use my platform anytime. So,
Yeah, well, Nino, I appreciate it. I appreciate the, what you do, and in this day and age, social media is where we get our news, and you do have to be able to sift through the truth and the non-truths. And I've always appreciated Candace's like cutting edge, provocative, like in your face. I really have. But when she crosses that line into, just like making stuff up, then I get nervous about it.
she seems like the type of woman you don't want to piss off. I mean, I don't want to be on her bad side. I appreciate you, Phil, coming on. Thank you so much.
Yeah, let's
be great, man.
keep
I hope
talking.
our audience enjoyed this, and I hope you get to go back on Candace Owens' show and maybe answer the these questions and clear the air.
Yeah, me too.
Where
Thanks,
do people
Nino.
find you, Phil?
What's that?
Where do people find you? You want them to find you? Where do people find you?
Yeah, X is where I'm at, and it's 𝗫_Lyman. That's the place to go. I've got a Facebook account with the same tag, and I've got an Instagram account, but over the last year or so, it's all just gone to X for me.
Got it. Phil, thank you so much, folks. I hope you like this. Please like, share, and subscribe. Appreciate you, Phil. God bless you, sir.
You too, Nino.